back in the studio to keep you connected to what's happening in the Northwest Local School District. And we have Superintendent Darrell Yater in the studio. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to be back.
Now, we have talked about the bond issue. We've explained all the different details. But we're just going to take a minute today because there are two questions you're hearing more frequently than others. So I want to make sure we get a chance to answer them.
Thanks.
The first question is, why are you replacing instead of repairing when it comes to buildings and parts of the district?
So as far back as 2009, the state of Ohio has been coming in and assessing our buildings. And even back in 2009, the state assessed our buildings and said that all of our buildings except for Montford Heights needed to be replaced. And that was back in 2009 and prior. So since then, we've been trying to maintain the buildings, but they were slated for replacement back then. When you have buildings that are slated for replacement, you only have certain options by which to do that. Obviously, a bond issue is the only way for a school district to replace buildings or to actually do significant repairs on buildings because the state of Ohio does not provide any funding for buildings and facilities. So either way of replacing or repairing, we have to go to the community and get a bond. The state of Ohio also has what they consider a debt limit for governmental entities like school districts. Based on our debt limit, we only have about $80 million that we have eligible to actually ask for from the community if we were going to just repair only. That's not enough money to continue to repair and then have buildings that will continue to need repairs down the road. So our only other option is to go into a state program, which we are in now, which allows us to exceed the debt limit because we're in partnership with the state of Ohio. That program is allowing us to earn credits now that we will be able to use in the future for our last phase, which is the co-funded phase, where the state will actually pay part of the portion of that project, as well as accepting and cashing in the credits that we're earning now. So that repair, replace, when we think long-term and what is strategically best for the community, whether it's to really just focus on the here and the now, or look strategically down the road long-term, being able to maximize the use of state dollars, being able to do that in a way that you really benefits the community. And currently with our debt limit, the amount we have that we could borrow, which borrowing means we come to the community for a bond, to say we need you to pass a bond just to replace buildings that the state has already said need to be replaced versus repaired. It's not the best use of the community's dollars.
So I'm seeing a couple things, and I just want to make sure my simplified understanding is accurate, or close anyway. One of them is the cost of replacement and the cost of maintaining is both very high. But the difference is that if we look at maintaining, if we look at repairing is the word, we're not going to get any help. That's all on our own. And then we'll still wind up with a building that needs to be replaced. So we're going to spend a lot of money at that level to just do repairs. And then it's still a building the state says, I'm sorry, this is a building we're not willing to pay to help you with anymore. We won't be eligible at the end of the program to get the state partnership.
And that's a key point. Because the state has already come in and said that our buildings need to be replaced, if we go down the road to repair buildings, it's 100% on the community. The state will not help us in any way, shape, or form because they've already determined they need to be replaced. And if we do something different than that, there will be no state money that we're eligible for that process.
And we've talked about the credits before, and that's exciting because there are different phases and we don't see them all at this point in time, but that if you work towards replacing on that program, you get to take advantage of state assistance later.
That's correct. We've already earned about $16 million in credits through phase one, which was the new Struble Elementary, Taylor, and Pleasant Run Elementary. Phase two would actually give us about another $40 million, and then we'd be able to cash in both of those credits when we get to phase three, which is the high school phase, and we would also get the 25% co-funded portion from the state, making it the most cost-effective way for the community to rebuild the entire district, which the state has said since 2009 we need to do. And if we talked about just repairing, then we have to stay within our debt limit that is set by the state of Ohio. And with that debt limit, we have about $80 million. And when you look at the buildings that absolutely have to be replaced, the ones that we could repair for a little bit longer, that $80 million goes quick. And then when that's gone, we can't go back to do any additional big repairs because we've met our debt limit. We can't go back to the community and even ask for the money that we need anymore. That's why being involved in the state project right now is so important, because it allows us to do what we need to do with that partnership with the state, where we're continuing to earn credits and we're leaving no money on the table.
I mean, it's earning the credits is the most exciting. We've talked about this program before. That's the most exciting part to me, because you're doing what you needed to do in the district anyway, but also you're chalking up some credits towards some assistance you'll be able to get from the state down the road.
Yeah, we're really trying to approach this from a very proactive and long-term strategy. So, when people say, what other things have you considered? This is phased the way it is to maximize those dollars from the state to benefit the community in the long run. And I know sometimes the immediacy of today looks very appealing to just fix, a couple of things that are really significant. But when we look long term, and we're really trying to benefit the community now and the community in the future, and that requires us to really be strategic and long term in our plan. Because if we were to go down and just do like Colerain Middle, because they're the oldest buildings we have, and we just repair others, we exceed our debt limit, and then when things need to happen, we don't have the ability to do that. And so our focus has truly been to think proactively and strategically so that we benefit the community now and in the future, and that we don't just live in the moment and make knee-jerk reactions that will actually hurt our community in the long run and take options off the table that they don't have then, but we do now.
So that's actually leads me directly to the next most frequently asked questions is, and because people are not in the back rooms where you're doing all this research. So that other big question is, what other options have you looked at, and why is this the best one?
So we actually had a community group that came together that helped develop this plan, and it was with a survey from the community, with community input, that this plan was developed and built this way to address our elementary, middle school, and then our high school phase last. And so it was built that way in order to maximize all of the credits and all of the state funding that we could, because we really want to make sure that it is the most cost-effective plan for the community. It also was looking long-term to make sure that we had the time to get all of the questions answered. We still need to come back to our community to really dive into that question of 1 or 2 high schools. And that is a question that we will engage with our community very soon around, so that we can get that question answered so that we're ready for phase 3. When we think about long-term strategies and solutions, our committee actually was looking down the road to not just benefit the students who are in the building now, but the students who will be there in the future and the community that will benefit from this in the future. If we were to change some of those strategies and we exceeded our debt limit now and we were not able to maximize that state program, once that state program passes us by, our community doesn't have the option to get in that again. And so we really want to make sure that we maximize our options now so that people down the road are wanting an option that they can't have because we didn't utilize it.
That's important, that now is the time to be in that program. We've talked about that program and how great it is. It's not something that someone can say, can we do this later? You have to be in it now.
And eventually the state will call, and it's one of those things where we don't have a definitive deadline from the state, but we do know that probably within the next 5 years or so, the state will call and say it's our turn to actually have that co-funded project. Once that co-funded project happens, we're done. They don't come back for round 2. It's a one time. And so we really want to set ourselves up to be ready for that last phase, because once that happens, there's no chance to go back and do it again. And with the state saying that all of our facilities need to be replaced, we want to be proactive and strategic to make sure that communities and families down the road benefit from the decisions we make today and don't regret them and wish we would have done things differently.
So that really is, to me, the biggest answer to why is this the best option? Because it looks at an opportunity for future projects to not all have to be paid for by the district, but to include state funding.
Correct.
These other options don't have that.
And once our debt limit is reached, we don't have the ability, even with community support, to go get the bonds we need to build buildings. So once that debt limit is reached, until bonds roll off and that debt limit reduces, we are at a point where we can do nothing.
That's
Repair
a good point.
or replace.
It's not just a question of whether the community is willing. They could be incredibly willing sometime in the future to say, oh, sure, let's just do a new one. But if you've reached that required limit, that's it, you're done.
And you don't have the state program that we're in now,
Yeah.
then there are no options.
Okay.
And so we've really tried to look at all the options and manage this in a way that is strategic, proactive, and really thinking long-term and not just thinking about in-the-moment decision-making.
Well, I want to thank you because I think that really helps answer clearly. I think we've talked about so many things that I think sometimes specific answers get lost. So this is another chance for us to share that information. Is there any place that folks can look if they just want to read all the details or get all their questions answered?
So our website is the best place for information. You can go to www.nwlsd.org, and at the very top left-hand corner of the website, there's a red bar that says Building Our Future, and you can click there to get a bunch of information about our current bond and all of the information that kind of led us to where we are.
Excellent. It's really great to have another place to see it. We cover a lot really fast, and I know some of us like to be able to look at the words and see what everything means. I want to thank you again. I want to thank you because you are asking questions, and that means you want to know all the details on making a good choice. So keep asking the questions, keep sharing this information with anybody that you know that has the same kinds of questions, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.